Danny's desperate, absolutely desperate for anybody in this area who knows anything, has heard anything, suspects anything. He's desperate for people to come forward because without that information, I'm afraid, unfortunately, Danny may never get the answers that he needs.
It has been more than 26 years since Patricia Grainger was murdered in Sheffield. No one has ever been charged with her murder, and her son remains desperate for answers and for justice. We take a look at this horrific unresolved murder with the hopes that one day Patricia's son Danny gets some clarity.
Patricia Grainger was a 25-year-old woman, a mum of one. She went missing from a home in Parson Cross in August 1997. She was missing a couple of days, and then a body was later found in a brook quite close to her home. Some schoolboys had found it. She was partially covered by an old bed base, and horrifically she'd been stabbed, sexually assaulted, mutilated. Horrific case.
Patricia's son was very young at the time, but as he got older and he was given access to some of the information about his mother's you created a website, and that's how you got involved, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I first got involved in the case in 2008. I didn't work at the Star in 1997, but in 2008, Patricia's son Danny, he had been researching his mum's case, and he'd found that there was a distinct lack of information online. He just couldn't find anything out about the case. He said that he felt like it hadn't even happened. His mum, his mum's case hadn't happened. His mum's case didn't matter. So he set up a website, and he called it whokilledmymum.com, and the Star found out about it, and I was given the opportunity to interview Danny. So we did this story, and back then, before things went viral, it actually did. It got, thousands, I think maybe 1 million views in a matter of a few hours. There was national publicity, all the nationals, all the Sun, the Mirror, you name it. They contacted Danny, and he got what he wanted. He wanted to raise a profile of his mum's case. He was desperate for answers, desperate for people in the local community to come forward and tell him, the police, the family, what had happened to his mum.
So you keep on working with Danny quite a lot. He has a good relationship with you, with the Star, and he's in touch regularly, isn't he?
Yeah, every year without doubt, we're in touch with each other. We'll do an anniversary appeal. We'll go to the police, we'll ask them what progress has been made with this case so far. Quite recently, Danny and his family, so desperate for answers, put up a reward, a cash reward of their own for information leading to the arrest of those involved in Patricia's death. Unfortunately, it didn't yield any results, but yeah, year after year we will continue to help Danny and his family, because at the end of the day this was a 5-year-old boy who lost his mum, and he's just desperate for answers, he's just desperate for justice. He's just really concerned that his mum has been forgotten by Sheffield, and he's concerned that whoever killed his mum could go out and do the same to somebody else.
And Danny's own work and your work is kind of the leading charge for this, isn't it? Because Southwark Police haven't gotten very far, have they?
No, there have been arrests made over the years, but no one's been charged. There's nobody behind bars for this murder. Yeah, and Danny's in regular contact with the police. He's constantly pressing them. Every time we do an article, it highlights the case. The police come to us and they'll give us a statement to say that the case is constantly under review. But yeah, it's our anniversary appeals every year that keep this case in the spotlight.
My name's Dave Stopford. I'm the head of the Major Incident Review team. Formerly, I was a police officer. I did 34 years for South Yorkshire Police and concluded my career doing 5 years as a senior investigating officer, so I had responsibility for investigating homicides. So the Major Incident Review team, we have responsibility for reviewing undetected historic homicides and also serious rape cases. Another piece of work that we also do is if a current murder hasn't been, if nobody's been charged within 28 days, we will do a review of that to give the SIO some assistance just to give him a second sight on it. Patricia was murdered in 1997. She went missing on the 4th of August. Her body was found in a brook in Parsons Cross on the 10th of August, and obviously a murder investigation was launched at that point. Since that time, there have been 2 reviews of the murder, and now we're conducting a forensic review. From all the sort of what we glean from around the country from the College of Policing, the best way, most effective way of getting results on any cold case investigations is through forensic opportunities, and that's where we're focusing really on this case. It all depends on what you've got left from the initial investigation, but the use of DNA in particular is a very essential tool that we have now that is bringing quite a lot of success for different forces around the country. The problems with that is that when this was a case in 1997, the scene and the management of the scene, the management of exhibits weren't kept in the way that we would have hoped to today, and that's purely through lack of knowledge of what was to come. So we start off with exhibits that may have had some contamination from scenes of crime officers, from scientists. So when we review that, that's one of the hurdles that we have to get over.
Well, Danny was only 5 when his mum tragically died, and he'll freely admit that he's got very, very few memories of his mum. He was only a little boy, but he's obviously spoken to his family, and he said that basically she was lovely, she would never hurt a fly, she would talk to anybody who would talk to her. She was quite a vulnerable woman, Patricia, and he feels that she was exploited, and that ultimately led to her death. It's very difficult sometimes to forget about cases, and this one I find particularly upsetting that a little boy was robbed of his mum. You know, he was 5 years old, he's hardly got any photographs of her, hardly any memories of her, and to think that somebody that did this to his mum is still out there, and he's so desperate for justice, he's so desperate for his mum to have mattered, and so desperate for nobody else to go through what she did. I think I'm always going to keep in touch with Danny. I'm always going to fight his case, fight his corner, and help him get the justice that he wants and he deserves.
I've been working on this case actually when I was a police officer and an SIO. I was given this case to look at. Met Daniel Grainger, Pat's son, at that time, and I've met him a number of times over the years, and Daniel's completely dedicated to finding the person who killed his mum, and you know, we've now put a lot of effort into that. We have prioritised this homicide case above some others because there are opportunities, forensic opportunities, and so it would mean an awful lot to everybody to find Pat's killer.
So what has been the public reaction to the investigation, to the number of appeals that the police have put out?
The police do believe that the key to cracking this case lies in the Parsons Cross community. That they appeal year after year, and some people do come forward, but not the number that Danny needs to get the information that the police need to crack this case. A reward for £10,000 was made available by Crime Stoppers, but unfortunately that failed to yield any results either. Danny's desperate, absolutely desperate, for anybody in this area who knows anything, has heard anything, suspects anything. He's desperate for people to come forward, because without that information, I'm afraid, unfortunately, Danny may never get the answers that he needs.
Well, we have quite a large number of undetected homicides. We have to prioritise those. We look at where the risk lies. We look at where the opportunities lie. So that goes back to what exhibits do we have and how well have they been maintained, and could those exhibits lead us to the offender. So although we have a lot of cases, we can't look at them all at the same time. I've got a fairly small team of about 10 officers, and so we will review them, having put them through a prioritisation system. But there is always opportunity, and we continue to scope those and to see whether the opportunities change. We try to look at the risk to see if there's any further risk, and we also always welcome new information coming in on any case.
How does the case of Patricia Grainger kind of fit into other kind of very touching and important cases to you covered?
Yeah, well, over the years I've covered multiple murder inquiries, and each of them I'll always remember. It's very, very difficult to put some of the horrific scenes that you've described, out of your head. But this particular case means quite a lot to me because of the relationship that I have built up with Danny over the years. Some families, quite understandably, don't want any press coverage. They just want to be left alone to grieve in peace. Danny wants the press to help him fight his case. He wants us all to do what we can to encourage people with information to come forward, to help put the person or persons who did this behind bars.
It's been 26 years since Patricia died. Nobody has been charged, nobody found guilty of her murder, but a son who is still longing for justice, and hopefully one day he will get it.